We're continuing on Hilchot Shabbat, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman Resh Samech is where we're starting. Daf Lamed Bet, Lamed Aleph Amud Bet of the regular prince of Mishna Berura. Dinei Hachnasat Shabbat. How do you prepare yourself for taking in Shabbat? Says Maran Shulchan Aruch, Mitzvah lirchos kol gufo. There is a mitzvah preparation for Shabbat by bathing yourself, washing yourself, cleaning your body. If it's impossible for you, you don't have the wherewithal to water, whatever it is, at the very least, panav yadav raglav, your face, your hands, your feet should be washed bechamin, with hot water, be'erev Shabbat, on erev Shabbat. U'mitzvah lachof rosho galiach hasipornaim. It's also mitzvah to fix your hair, cut the nails, be'erev Shabbat, on erev Shabbat. Now this is chamin. Of course, hot water helps clean better, but al pi sod, al pi Kabbalah also, even in the summer days, that's the warmer and cold water is not as uncomfortable, still will be an inyan to do it b'mayim. Chamin, of course, part of this hachanav of rechitza would be to go to mikveh for those who it's possible for them, because in order to accept the neshama yetira, the tosefet nefesh ruach unshama of Shabbat, of Friday night, it is a necessity, says the Ari Kadosh, to be tovel b'mikveh. Even there is a concept of tosefet neshama of the aspects of the day of Shabbat, b'chinat hayom, which requires its own tevilah on Shabbat morning, which again a little beyond the scope of this talk. Can it be done in mayim poshrim? Does it have to be cold water on Shabbat, and so on? But nevertheless, it does not have to be necessarily a kosher mikveh. A swimming pool for men would be sufficient when it comes to discussion of mikveh. A berecha of mayim shuvim would be sufficient as well in that manner. Says the Mishna Berura, mikol makom en ze chova gemura. This is not a full-fledged obligation. It's a nice thing to do. It is important to do it, but it's not that you have to go out of your way if you don't have water available and so on. You accept schar for doing it, but if you can't do it, you're not punished. There's no consequences in that way. But you should be very careful not to do chilul Shabbat for trying to bathe on erev Shabbat. Unfortunately, says the Chafetz Chaim, many people would stumble in this issue, because you have the shorter days of winter when Shabbat comes in very quick, and sometimes you sit in the bath, and it's becoming nightfall already, and even though that they started it beheter, you could get very quickly into questions of Shabbat. So one should be careful with that as well. Now, this is not just for men; it's for women as well, and you have to be hacham ena berosho. Again, in the short winter days, especially deep in the winter up north in North Europe, will be even shorter days. Still nowadays, you have many countries that their drastic hours are far more drastic than what you have in the United States. Shabbat could come in at 3 o'clock, and you have to be planning well, starting preparations from early morning to make sure that you have ample time to prepare yourself for Shabbat. Now, says Mishna Berura, be'erev Shabbat v'uadin be'erev Yom Tov. Same thing would be for Yom Tov as well, but you don't want to do this on Thursday. You don't want to take a shower, the Chavot Shabbat, on Thursday. That's already too far-fetched. You want to do it erev Shabbat, the closer the better, unless you know that erev Shabbat you're going to be in a place that you can't do it, and therefore you want to prepare for it earlier on, so they want to do Thursday night. That's also okay. Now, the closer to Shabbat, of course, the better. That being said, the Gemara says that when you cut your nails, you should not just throw them on the floor. Gemara says if you burn them, you're a Hasid. If you bury them, that is considered a tzaddik, and if you throw them just on people's ways, is considered a rasha. It's not a right thing to do. So nowadays, many. This is, by the way, because a woman that's pregnant will be not proper for them to walk over cut nails and so on. So nowadays, what people do is either to put in the garbage or they flush it, which will be equivalent of burying them. So that would be fine as well. That's one of the reasons that in Bet Midrash the Gemara says women would not come, because this would be something that people would not be careful necessarily in the Bet Midrash. These are again discussions that the Chafetz Chaim brings derech agav, because the Shulchan Aruch discusses cutting the nails, so he brings them over here. Now, we spoke about Tevilah and Shabbat morning, and again, there could be an entire shiur in the importance of mikveh and Tevilah. It is something important. It is something essential, especially for accepting the kedusha of Shabbat. To add tahara, many communities, writes the Rambam, they accepted upon themselves. He says he feels he was from one of those communities of being zahir in Tevilat Ezra. So Rambam himself writes that he never in his life nullified the concept of going to mikveh within the barometers of Tevilat Ezra, unless he was sick and so on. But Kabbalistically speaking, also, as we mentioned, is important, even on Shabbat morning. Now, Shabbat morning has some restrictions attached to it. There's things that we're going to get to in Siman Shin Chavav. We're going to discuss that on Shabbat you cannot bathe in warm water. We're not talking about hot water, even warm water. In Mayim Posherin, the Georim write it is a problem. Now, whether or not the Sorech Mitzvah a person could do that is very debatable. The Korban Netanel writes that you can, others vehemently disagree with that. So therefore, especially when something is not an obligation, we're not talking about a woman going to mikveh on Friday night. We're talking about a man for Kabbalistic ideas, trying to add spirituality, going to mikveh. Certainly you have to be very mindful that you should not end up with with a bigger problem than what you're trying to fix. So that's something that a person should discuss with their local Moreh Hora'ah. Generally speaking, it would be asur to use a mikveh on Shabbat that is warm water or certainly hot water. So that's something to be mindful as well. Now, one more point that is brought, and I have it here jotted down, in Shara Kavanot, in Daf Samech Bet, Ariya Kadosh writes, Marchu writes about the minhagim of his Rebbe, the Ariya Kadosh, that he would go to mikveh after Shnai Mikra B'Chatargum, and he would say that because he already read the parasha, he has the ability of accepting Tosefet Shabbat, right? And therefore he would not do the Tevilah before Shnai Mikra B'Chatargum. You find many people who are very careful in the details of what they do. They do it this way: Friday morning, they do Shnai Mikra B'Chatargum with the Tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam, and then they go to mikveh afterwards. Fine. So that's something that comes straight up from Shara Kavarot, and says the Marchu, ואף גם מקרה זה לא היה טובל רק אחר שהתחילה שעה החמישית, even if it was a scenario in which the Ari could not finish the Shnai Mikra before going to mikveh, he would still not go to mikveh until Shah Hamishit, and he would say that Tosefet Shabbat is more nikar, it's more revealed in the metzach of a person right after tefillah. And again, the Kaf HaChaim, the Pirkei Yosef, they all reckon with this Arizal in a more serious way. Even the Ramchal and other schools of Kabbalah, they very much are machshiv the inyan of Tevilah b'mikveh on Fridays for accepting as a precursor, as a prerequisite for accepting Tosefet Neshama of Shabbat, adding the Kedusha, to a degree that it would seem that you can't accept Tosefet Naran, Tosefet Nefesh Rach and Neshama without the inyan of mikveh. So it's important to emphasize that and to be careful as much as possible for those who can do it. So says no, it's an hour before. It says he would not go before. Yeah.
Unless he did Shnai Mikra.
That's correct.
He would go before.
That's what it seems. So it seems. Good question. That's what it seems. And if you have long hair, says the Rama, mitzvah legalechan. It's a mitzvah to shorten them, right? Now, the Rama explains loy tolotan kesidran. If you are cutting your nails, you should not cut them in order, right? But you should start from left hand in the second to last finger, right next to your pinky, and you go every other one, and then you come back to the other one, and by right hand, right? With your right hand, you start with your index finger, and then you go the same way, skipping around. The Ariya Kadosh used to laugh at this. He say not to be concerned about this at all, and that has become basically the minhag of the Sfaradim, that they just cut their nails the way you cut them.